At sunrise, a commercial honey farm is already awake. Thousands of bee colonies sit in long wooden rows, stretching across fields that seem to have no end. From a distance, the hives look quiet, but inside them, an entire workforce is operating with astonishing precision. A single, healthy colony can contain between Sanwen and Lo1 bees. Every bee has a specific role. Some collect nectar, some protect the hive. Others feed the young, and a small number maintain the temperature of the colony by fanning their wings. The workers fly from flower to flower, gathering nectar in a special stomach designed only for transport. Once they return, the nectar is passed from bee to bee. During this process, enzymes begin transforming the sugary liquid into honey. Then comes the most important step. The bees spread the nectar into thousands of tiny wax cells and continuously fan it with their wings. This airflow removes excess moisture. When the water content drops low enough, the nectar becomes stable honey that can be stored for months or even years. Finally, the bees seal each cell with a thin layer of wax. That is the signal beekeepers are waiting for. Harvest day begins by calming the colony. Beekeepers use cool smoke, which interrupts the bees' alarm signals and encourages them to move deeper into the hive. The goal is not to harm the bees, but to create a short window in which the honey frames can be removed safely. One by one, the heavy wooden frames are lifted out. A fully filled frame can weigh several kilograms, and a large farm may harvest thousands of frames in a single day. Each frame contains thousands of sealed honey cells packed with concentrated nectar collected from millions of flowers. The frames are then transported to a dedicated extraction facility. Here, the process becomes almost entirely industrial. First, a machine removes the thin wax caps from both sides of the frame. This step is called uncapping. Once the cells are opened, the frames are loaded into a large stainless steel extractor. The extractor spins at high speed, creating powerful centrifugal force. As the drum rotates, honey is pulled out of the wax cells and flung against the walls of the machine. The liquid honey then flows downward into collection tanks. The remarkable part is that the wax comb is not destroyed. After extraction, the empty frames are dried and returned to the hives. The bees can refill the same comb again, saving enormous amounts of energy because producing wax is extremely expensive for a colony. The honey now moves through a series of filters that remove wax particles, bee, debris, and other impurities. Next comes quality control. Technicians measure moisture content, color, aroma, and purity. Honey with too much moisture can ferment, while contamination can affect both flavor and safety. Only batches that meet strict standards continue to the packaging stage. The final step is bottling. The sun rises over endless fields of flowers. Millions of honeybees begin one of nature's busiest workdays. Every bee has a single mission: to collect nectar from blooming flowers and return safely to the hive. A single bee produces only a tiny amount of honey during its entire lifetime. Yet when tens of thousands of bees work together as one colony, the result is truly extraordinary. Modern beekeeping begins long before the honey is harvested. Professional beekeepers carefully place wooden hives in areas rich with flowering plants. They constantly monitor the health of the colony, ensuring the queen bee is healthy and the workers have enough space to build new honeycombs. When the honeycomb cells are completely filled and sealed with a thin layer of wax, the honey is finally ready for harvest. Before opening the hive, beekeepers use cool smoke to calm the bees. The smoke encourages the colony to move deeper into the hive, allowing the beekeeper to remove the honey-filled frames with minimal disturbance. Each wooden frame is lifted carefully. Every drop of honey represents millions of flower, visits, and weeks of non-stop work by the colony. So damaging the comb would waste valuable resources. The frames are then transported to a clean processing facility. Their special tools remove the thin wax caps covering each honeycomb cell. Next comes one of the most fascinating stages. The frames are placed inside powerful honey extractors that spin at high speed. Centrifugal force gently pulls the honey out of the comb without destroying its structure. The empty combs are returned to the beehives, where the bees can refill them again, saving both time and energy. The fresh honey is filtered to remove small pieces. of wax and other natural particles. It is then tested for quality, moisture, and purity before being poured into bottles by automated filling machines. Within just a short time, the same honey that began as flower nectar is ready to be shipped to homes, restaurants, and supermarkets around the world. It is an incredible partnership between nature and modern technology. One that produces millions of gallons of honey every single year. Not all honey comes from peaceful wooden hives. Far away from modern farms, deep inside untouched forests and rugged mountains, wild bee colonies continue to live exactly as they have for thousands of years. These bees build their homes high above the ground, where very few animals or humans can reach them. For experienced honey hunters, every expedition begins before sunrise. With only a backpack, a sharp knife, ropes, food, water, and simple protective clothing, they enter dense forests where there are no roads, no machines, and often no phone signals. Their mission is simple in theory, but incredibly difficult in reality. Find a single wild beehive hidden among countless trees. Unlike farm bees, wild colonies leave almost no obvious signs. Hunters must rely on years of experience. They patiently watch the flight of bees, follow their direction from flower to flower, and study the surrounding landscape. Sometimes they spend an entire day searching without finding a single hive. Other times, success comes only after several days of walking through rough terrain. Even after discovering a colony, the real challenge has only begun. Many wild bees build enormous honeycombs on the highest branches of giant trees, far above the forest floor. Reaching them requires skill, balance, and courage. One mistake could lead to a serious fall. To avoid provoking the colony, hunters create cool smoke using dry leaves and natural materials. Thick clouds of smoke drift upward, encouraging many of the bees to move away from the honeycomb for a short time. But time is extremely limited. Within minutes, the bees begin returning to defend their home. Working quickly and carefully, the hunters cut only the ripe sections of the honeycomb. They always leave part of the comb behind so the colony can survive, rebuild, and continue producing honey in the future. This traditional practice has protected many wild bee populations for generations. It allows nature and local communities to survive together without completely destroying the colonies they depend on. For these hunters, wild honey is more than food. It is a symbol of patience, courage, and respect for the natural world. Yet even these dangerous forest expeditions are not the greatest challenge. In one remote corner of the Himalayas, honey hunters risk something even more valuable than their harvest, their own lives. High in the Himalayas, where steep cliffs rise above deep, valleys and the air grows thinner. With every step, one of the world's most dangerous traditions continues. Twice each year, small mountain villages prepare for an expedition unlike any other. Before the journey begins, families gather, elders offer prayers, and experienced hunters inspect ropes, woven ladders, and bamboo baskets. Everyone understands the risk. A single mistake can have devastating consequences. Their target is not an ordinary beehive. Clinging to towering rock faces are the nests of the Himalayan giant, honeybee, the largest honeybee species on Earth. These bees build enormous combs on vertical cliffs, far beyond the reach of ordinary equipment. To reach them, hunters rely on long handmade rope ladders suspended from the top of the cliff. As one team secures the ropes above, another waits below with baskets and tools to collect the honey. When everything is ready, one hunter slowly descends into open space, suspended hundreds of feet above the valley floor. Surrounded by strong mountain winds, the hunter faces thousands of bees protecting their colony. Every movement must be calm, precise, and carefully planned. Meanwhile, helpers below create thick smoke from bundles of damp leaves. The smoke drifts upward, encouraging many of the bees to move away from the comb for a few precious minutes. That short window is all the hunter has. Using a long knife, the hunter carefully cuts sections of the giant honeycomb. The pieces fall into waiting baskets below, while the remaining comb is left, attached to the cliff, allowing the colony to recover and continue producing honey. Among this harvest is a rare variety often called mad honey. Because the bees collect nectar from certain mountain flowers, The honey contains naturally occurring compounds that can affect the human nervous system if consumed in large amounts. Researchers continue to study these effects, and people should never consume unfamiliar wild honey without reliable guidance. Its rarity, difficult harvest. When most people think about bees, they think of honey. But the truth is, honey is only a small part of what makes these tiny insects so important. Every day, millions of bees travel from flower to flower collecting nectar. During this journey, they unknowingly perform one of nature's most essential jobs, pollination. As bees land on flowers, pollen sticks to their tiny bodies. When they visit the next flower, that pollen is transferred, helping plants produce fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts. Without this natural process, many crops would produce far smaller harvests, and some would struggle to grow at all. Around the world, farmers depend on healthy bee populations to pollinate orchards filled with apples, almonds, blueberries, cherries, pumpkins, and countless other crops. In many places, beekeepers even transport thousands of hives to farms during flowering season so bees can help pollinate entire fields. It is one of the greatest partnerships between humans and nature. But this partnership is facing serious challenges. Climate change, habitat loss, pollution, harmful pesticides, and diseases are putting increasing pressure on bee populations. In many regions of the world, when bees disappear from an area, the effects can spread far beyond honey production. Farmers may harvest fewer crops, wildlife can lose important food sources, and ecosystems become less stable. That is why scientists, farmers, and conservation groups are working together to protect bee habitats and encourage sustainable farming practices. Simple actions can also make a difference. Planting flowers that attract pollinators, reducing unnecessary pesticide use, and protecting natural habitats all help support healthy bee populations. Every healthy hive represents far more than a source of honey. It is a living factory, a master pollinator, and a vital part of Earth's food system. The future of countless plants, and perhaps even our own food supply depends on the survival of these remarkable insects. In the end, bees are not just producers of honey. They are silent workers that help keep nature itself alive.